All right, little bro, let me tell you how it really is. You know how America feels like it's kind of glitching? Well, the whole system is starting to crack in the most basic place possible, our dinner plates. By 2025, the price of food didn't just go up, it went full-on rocket ship, surging by about 27%. And our paychecks? Oh, they barely budged, crawling up by a pathetic 4%. So now, regular families are burning through more than $1,200 a month just to keep the fridge from being a complete ghost town. And the best part? A lot of them are still going to bed hungry. Credit cards are maxed out, savings accounts look like a desert, and with every single swipe at the grocery store, a little bit more of your dignity just evaporates into the air. All over the country, you've got parents not feeling hungry so their kids can have seconds. At the office, people are pretending everything's cool, hiding the fact they can't afford lunch, like it's some embarrassing secret. This is way past inflation, man. This is a slow-motion collapse that everyone's pretending is just another Tuesday. That whole Great Depression thing you learned about in history class isn't just a chapter in a textbook anymore. It's making a comeback tour, and its first stop is the middle class, hiding behind a cheap disguise of just getting by. Number 5. Washington. So, in Washington state, the grocery store has become the new battleground for our economic anxieties. Yeah, this is the same state that gave us Amazon's trillion-dollar empire, and somehow made us all agree that a $6 coffee was a reasonable purchase. But beneath that shiny tech bro exterior is a super awkward truth. The middle class here is fighting a losing battle just to eat a decent meal. Washington used to be the poster child for innovation and moving on up, but now it's just replaying a new, invisible version of the Great Depression, one where hunger is buried under credit card debt and the soulless beep of the self-checkout machine. Families that never thought twice about what they bought are now frozen in every aisle, doing frantic mental math, trying to decide if buying milk today means they're just drinking water with their cereal tomorrow. Go back to 2019, and your average family was spending around $700 a month on food. Fast forward to 2025, and that number has shot past $1,200 for a family of 4. That's a nearly 70% jump in just 6 years. A carton of eggs is knocking on the door of $5. A loaf of bread is over $4, and chicken, which used to be the cheap option, is now selling for $4.50 a pound, if you're lucky. And get this, it's not just that the food is expensive. It's expensive just to get to the food. Gas prices around Seattle are often screaming past $5 a gallon, which turns a simple trip to the store into a major budget negotiation. And while all our bills are going to the moon, our paychecks are stuck in the mud. Someone tells you the median income is $94,000, and you think, hey, that's pretty good. But then you pay taxes, your $2,500 rent for a glorified closet, $400 for utilities, car insurance, and all the kid-related costs, and a lot of families are left with maybe $100 to feed themselves for an entire week. Parents who used to pack fun lunches now see how many meals they can stretch out of a giant bag of instant noodles. Out in eastern Washington, food banks are seeing a 40% spike in visitors since before the pandemic, and a huge chunk of the people in that line are working full-time. You've got a guy who builds planes for Boeing for $35 an hour waiting next to a teacher and a nurse. All of them are teetering on the edge of actual hunger in one of the wealthiest states in the entire country. These aren't slackers. These were supposed to be the stable ones. The taxpayers, the people who work overtime, the ones you could count on. But now, a healthy meal is basically a luxury item. The sickest part is that the grocery stores are perfectly full. Shiny organic vegetables, fancy seafood, and imported snacks are all glistening under the fluorescent lights, while the employees stocking those shelves are in the break room skipping lunch. The food is there, you just can't afford to touch it. Inflation has basically turned the middle class into a new social class, the invisibly poor. People look fine, they've got clean clothes, and they're swiping a credit card to buy ground beef. Carrying debt just for groceries is becoming totally normal. There are surveys now showing that 1 in 3 households in Washington is putting food on their credit card, which adds on almost $90 a month in interest alone. That's not a life, dude. That's just a high-stakes shell game with your bank account. And don't think the tech hubs are immune. In places like Redmond and Bellevue, people making 6 figures are splitting meals, eating smaller portions, or just never going to restaurants. Taking the family out for a simple dinner now sets you back between $80 and $100. That's more than some families have for a whole week of groceries. At the same time, property taxes and healthcare have devoured any extra cash they might have had. When you get a 4% raise but food prices shoot up 20%, you're not making progress, you're just losing a little more slowly. The middle class here doesn't starve out in the open. They do it quietly, behind closed doors. They buy a little less meat, add water to the milk, and trade fresh veggies for cheap, processed junk. Parents serve themselves smaller portions and hope the kids don't notice. People who always prided themselves on being independent are now asking the same damn question their grandparents muttered back in the 1930s. How did everything fall apart so fast? Underneath all the billion-dollar skyscrapers and Amazon trucks, Washington's middle class is just trying to hang on to a little dignity while their stomachs are growling. They don't want your pity. They just want someone to admit this is really happening. Because when the people who literally build the state, teach its kids, and work in its hospitals can't afford to eat right, you can't call that inflation. That's the Great Depression making a quiet comeback. Number 4, Mississippi. So, everyone knows Mississippi is the poorest state in the country, right? But in 2025, that's not just a sad fact. It's a whole new level of messed up. The middle class there isn't just having a tough time, they're going hungry. And it's not the kind of hunger you see in old black and white photos of guys in soup lines. It's a lot quieter. It's the constant stress, the never-ending calculations in your head, and a bone-deep exhaustion that just never goes away. You've got teachers, factory workers, and nurses standing at the checkout line counting their dollars instead of their groceries, realizing that 1 week of food can cost more than what they make in 2 entire days of work. What's really tragic is who these people are. They're not unemployed, and they're not on welfare. They are full-time workers who get up before the sun, grind through 10-hour shifts, and still come home to a refrigerator that's basically echoing. The average income down in Mississippi is about $54,000 a year, but that number is a complete joke now. The cost of just being alive has skyrocketed so fast that nobody can keep up. A monthly grocery bill that was maybe $600 before the world lost its mind is now easily over $1,000, eating up nearly a quarter of their take-home pay. Eggs that used to be $1.29 are now pushing $4.80. Milk is over $6 a gallon, and ground beef, the go-to cheap meal, can hit $6.50 a pound. For a family with a couple of kids, the numbers just don't work at all. So Mom in Jackson told a reporter she's spending close to $250 every single week just to feed her 4-person family. And that's with zero fun stuff. No treats, no fast food, just the bare-bones basics like rice, bread, vegetables, and milk. Mississippi's middle class is getting wiped out, trapped between wages that won't move and prices that won't stop climbing. That old myth about it being cheap to live in the South, it has completely imploded. Rent in some cities has shot up nearly 38% since 2020. Power bills have doubled. After you pay for a roof, gas, and childcare, most people have just a few $100 left. And the grocery bill torches through that cash in a couple of days. So, of course, people are putting food on credit cards, which creates this twisted thing some economists called hunger debt, a brutal loop where you borrow money just to survive. The food banks are totally swamped. Before 2020, they were mostly for folks who were unemployed or really low income. Now, 1 out of every 4 people showing up has a full-time job. Teachers come by after school gets out, warehouse workers are there before their morning shift, and nurses stop in after working all night. All that pride is gone. Now it's just about getting by. Even the cheapest food is starting to feel like a luxury. Families are swapping out chicken for beans, using powdered milk instead of fresh, and buying canned vegetables that are built to last, not to actually be nutritious. So get this, they're growing soybeans and raising chickens for literally millions of us, but the people who actually live there, next to the fields, can't even afford the food they're helping make. All the little local grocery stores got steamrolled by giant corporations that just suck all the money out of the state. People are paying the same prices you'd see in a big city for stuff that was grown 10 miles down the road. It's like baking a cake and then being forced to buy a slice of it back from your landlord for double the price. This isn't just about being broke, either. The whole system is just rotten. You've got people who did everything they were told to do, worked their butts off, saved money, played by all the rules, and now they have to choose between putting gas in the car to get to work or eating dinner. And in a state where almost 60% of the people are just regular, middle class, or working folks, being hungry isn't some abstract idea on the news anymore. It's what your neighbor is going through, what your coworker is hiding. It's just constant. Maybe the weirdest part is how quiet it all is. You don't see any riots or massive protests on TV, no huge headlines. It's just millions of people making these tiny, heartbreaking sacrifices behind their own front doors. You know, parents pretending they already ate so their kids can have seconds, grandparents splitting a can of soup to make their social security check last, people at work just saying they're not hungry at lunchtime because they can't afford it. Mississippi isn't just having a hard time, it's being starved out in slow motion. And with food prices set to jump another 10% this year, it's pretty damn clear this isn't some temporary problem. It's like a quiet reboot of the Great Depression, happening one empty kitchen table at a time. Number 3, Nevada. Man, Nevada has always been selling a fantasy. You've got these neon signs that cut through the desert, casinos that never sleep, and these insane billion-dollar hotels that promise you the world. But once you get past all that glitter, there's a reality that the tourists are definitely not supposed to see. The regular, middle-class folks there are struggling to buy food. For decades, Las Vegas was this symbol of opportunity. You could get a steady service job, rent wasn't insane, and tips could actually let you get ahead. Well, the lights are still shining, but they're casting some seriously long shadows on a massive hunger problem. The server dealing with some whale's $100,000 bet, the housekeeper cleaning a luxury suite, the cashier at the grocery store scanning food they can't afford. They're the ones skipping meals. They're eating leftovers for 3 days straight and just praying their next paycheck hits the bank on time. By 2025, the middle class in Nevada is basically staring down a total collapse that nobody's really talking about. The average household income is around $67,000 a year, but honestly, that number is meaningless now. Food prices have shot up more than 30% faster than anyone's paycheck, so any raise you got was wiped out instantly, according to federal data. The average grocery run in Las Vegas went from about $700 a month in 2020 to nearly $1,150 in 2025. Just buying the basics feels like a luxury. A dozen eggs will set you back around $5.50. A gallon of milk is more than $6.30, and even rice and beans, the classic we're broke meal, have doubled in price. A mom in Henderson put it perfectly. She said, "I used to feed my family on $150 a week. Now it's over $300 and we're eating less." That whole casino economy that was supposed to lift everyone up has turned into a trap. The workers who live off tips have seen their paychecks shrink because tourists are getting cheap and inflation is just eating every dollar they make. Union deals are way behind the times, and the whole economic hangover from the pandemic is still lingering. And housing costs just make everything 1,000 times worse. Rent in Vegas has jumped more than 45% since 2019. Gas is still crazy expensive, health insurance keeps going up, and nothing ever seems to get better. You could have a couple making $80,000 a year, which sounds pretty good on paper, but after they pay taxes, rent, car payments, and insurance, a lot of them have barely $400 left for food for the entire month. That's nothing when a single pound of ground beef costs $7. What you get is this hidden hunger crisis happening right in the middle of a state that's all about luxury. Food banks all over Nevada are reporting a 50% jump in regular working families asking for help since 2022. These aren't unemployed people. They're cashiers, casino workers, and people who own small businesses just trying to hang on. 1 out of every 3 middle-class people in Nevada now admits they regularly skip meals just to save a few bucks. Tons of them are using credit cards to buy groceries, just racking up insane debt to keep food in the fridge. It's totally normal to see a grocery store parking lot full of nice cars, but the people driving them are completely broke. That appearance of being okay is the only thing holding it all together, and the damage is more than just financial. There's this quiet mental beatdown that comes with struggling to afford food while you're surrounded by complete and total excess. Families hide how bad things are, acting like everything's fine while they try to make a pot of spaghetti last one more day. Parents secretly serve themselves smaller portions so their kids won't realize they're running out of food. Seniors won't buy fresh fruit because spending $2 on an apple feels like a reckless splurge. This is the same quiet desperation that hit America almost 100 years ago. The only difference now is that it's hidden behind LED billboards, food delivery apps, and 24-hour everything. Nevada's economy might look like it's booming, but a lot of its people are silently going hungry. Inflation killed their raises, rent increases destroyed any sense of stability, and this illusion of success has trapped millions of people in pure survival mode. The waitresses, the technicians, the dealers, and all the service workers who literally built that state aren't standing in bread lines. They're standing in grocery store aisles, holding their breath and watching the total on the screen climb past what they know they can pay for. Behind every single one of those flashy Las Vegas signs is a family eating less, saving nothing, and slowly losing any sense of hope. The Great Depression isn't just some chapter in a history book there. It's creeping back under the neon glow, one empty dinner plate at a time. Number 2. Texas. Texas used to be the dream, the place where if you worked hard, you could actually buy a house and get a good job. And your weekends were for barbecues, not for stressing about how you're going to pay your bills. But by 2025, that dream has pretty much curdled. The same middle-class families that built Texas up from nothing are now fighting to afford the most basic thing you can think of: food. All that famous Texas pride is quietly being replaced by straight-up anxiety. Grocery bills are going up so fast it feels like you can never catch up. And in a state that practically fuels the country with cattle and oil, regular working families are finding it harder every single month just to put dinner on the table. Just a few years back, in 2019, the average Texas family was spending around $680 a month on groceries. Today, that same shopping trip costs over $1,150. What felt like a little bit of inflation has turned into a financial kick to the stomach. A dozen eggs now costs almost $4.90, a gallon of milk is getting close to $6, and chicken, which used to be like $2.20 a pound, is now $5.50 or even more. Even the cheap stuff like rice and bread, the food you're supposed to fall back on when times are tough, just keeps getting more expensive. Families who used to just throw whatever they wanted into the shopping cart are now creeping down the aisles, watching the total on their calculator app go up. They're buying less meat, skipping the snacks, and buying canned vegetables instead of fresh ones because they last longer. Texas used to feed the whole country. Now it can barely feed itself. And the irony is just staggering. Texas is #1 in the nation for farming and energy, but its own middle class is being absolutely crushed by corporate greed and out-of-control inflation. An average household income of $73,000 sounds decent, right? But once you pay taxes, $2,000 in rent, $500 for utilities, plus insurance, healthcare, and gas for your truck, there's basically nothing left. In big cities like Houston and Dallas, families with 2 kids are spending nearly a third of their entire income just on food. Some dad in San Antonio said it perfectly. We don't buy anything extra anymore. No snacks, no takeout, just the absolute basics. And even that is barely enough. The food banks across the state are completely breaking under the strain. The Houston Food Bank, which is one of the biggest in the whole country, says they've seen a 45% increase in demand from working families since 2022. And again, these aren't unemployed people. They're nurses, teachers, factory workers, and DoorDash drivers. A lot of them showing up still in their work uniforms, totally embarrassed but just desperate. And grocery stores are noticing a messed up trend. People are buying fewer things, but their bills at the checkout are way higher. So, you want to know how bad it is? People are spending more cash and getting less stuff. And surprise, surprise, the kids are getting hit too. In Texas, the tab for school lunches has blown past $100 million. That's for the whole state. And teachers, the ones who are already broke, are secretly paying for kids' meals just so they can eat. This isn't just the economy taking a nosedive. It's like our whole value system is crashing. Texas loves to talk a big game about being independent and full of opportunity. But what good is freedom when your salary doesn't even cover groceries? You're literally choosing between a gallon of milk and a gallon of gas, and both feel like luxury items. The so-called middle class in Texas today, we're not living the dream. We're playing a survival game. One grocery bill at a time. Everyone's racking up credit card debt just to buy food, and the amount of money people owe is at an all-time high. So, behind every pickup truck with a God Bless Texas sticker, there's probably a family making smaller dinners and praying the price of chicken doesn't go up again. This whole disaster isn't some big, dramatic explosion. It's quiet. You see it in the shopping carts that are only half full, the grocery bags that look depressingly light, and you hear it when parents say, "Oh, I'm not hungry," just so their kids can have seconds. Back in the day, the Great Depression was all about those black and white photos of bread lines. Now, it's just a quiet notification from your bank app, an overdraft fee, and another maxed-out credit card. Texas was supposed to be where you went to make it big. Now, it feels like it's all about to fall apart. People aren't having barbecues, their fridges are looking sparse, and we're all learning the same lesson our grandparents did. Hunger doesn't give a damn about your zip code if the kitchen's empty. And topping the charts, of course, is California. California was supposed to be the jackpot, right? Sunny beaches, awesome weather, jobs everywhere. The whole work hard, get a great life deal that was meant to last forever. It was basically the future. But here in 2025, that dream is shattered. Forget the palm trees and Teslas you see on Instagram. The reality is millions of regular, middle-class people are one bad trip to the grocery store away from total financial collapse. And the irony? This is the state that literally grows the food for half the country. You've got teachers, nurses, even tech bros making 6 figures, and they're all struggling to buy groceries. I'm not exaggerating, man. This is real life, happening every day in the produce aisle. The math doesn't lie. Back in 2019, which feels like a century ago, a family in California would spend around $750 a month on food. Now, it's anywhere from $1,400 to $1,600 for the same stuff. And if you're in San Francisco, a gallon of milk is pushing $7. 7. A dozen eggs? That'll be $6.50. Chicken used to be under $3 a pound. Now it's almost 7. A single bag of groceries that costs $60 a few years ago now easily hits over $120. Just running in for the basics, bread, milk, eggs, and some veggies can set you back $80. People are literally having to put food back on the shelf at the checkout line. And get this, the state's median household income is about $91,500, which sounds like a lot until you realize it's monopoly money here. When your rent is $3,000 a month and taxes eat up the rest, the numbers just don't add up. The middle class in California didn't just vanish, it just got a new name, the working poor. And we're not talking about people on welfare. These are pros, teachers in L.A., software engineers in Silicon Valley, nurses in the state capital who are literally skipping meals to make rent. Recent studies show that almost 40% of middle-income folks in California are food insecure. That's a fancy way of saying they don't know where their next meal is coming from, a problem that used to be only for the absolute poorest. In Los Angeles County, over 2 million residents are hitting up food banks every month, and a ton of them have full-time jobs. Inflation basically took our dignity, swapped it for debt, and then that debt started making us hungry, even within what's supposed to be the world's fifth largest economy. Food is now officially a luxury item, and you can't escape the insane irony of it all. California grows a huge chunk of America's produce: strawberries, almonds, avocados, lettuce, but the people who pick it, pack it, drive the trucks, and even code the apps for it often can't afford to buy it. You can find locally grown grapes that are more expensive in San Jose than they are halfway across the country in Chicago. A single avocado grown just down the road can be $2.50. The farmers are getting squeezed, while the giant grocery corporations are making money hand over fist, so it's not like there's a food shortage. The whole system is just rigged. Being middle class now means you're a full-time accountant for your own life. Parents are swapping fresh vegetables for the canned stuff, milk gets rationed out, and buying meat is like a special occasion. You end up eating cheap, processed junk instead of real meals just to feel full. Eating healthy isn't a normal thing anymore. It's a status symbol for rich people. Some mom in Oakland put it perfectly. She said, "I used to buy food we liked. Now I just buy food that keeps us from dying." And the numbers prove she's not wrong. Groceries in California are up 26% since 2021, which is almost 3 times faster than our paychecks have grown. So you've got millions of people who are quietly starving while these monster grocery companies are rolling in cash. And this mess isn't just about your stomach, it's messing with your head. People who used to feel like they had it together are now drowning in anxiety. They're tracking prices on an app, planning every meal around what's on sale, and just praying nothing breaks. Because a flat tire or a surprise doctor's bill could mean you're not eating for a week. It wears you down, man. You stop feeling proud and start feeling guilty. You stop feeling stable and start feeling terrified. For a lot of people out here, the new American dream is just making it to the end of the month without hitting the limit on your visa.